Welcome back to Mishpacha's Take 2, where the people you make friends with in the pages of the magazine sit down with us here and we get to follow up with them in real time. In the case of today's guest, our dear friend Sholom Mordechai Rubashkin, he's never been far from the minds and hearts of our readers who've traveled this journey with him, davening with him for so many years. And over the last few years, who among us hasn't been inspired by hearing some of his thoughts in Emunah and Chizuk and Hasidus and Yiddishkeit? Somehow, he's been everywhere. Sholom Mordechai, thank you for coming in.
Nice to be here.
Nice to be here. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing. You're so, Baruch Hashem, so prolific. We're hearing over so much Torah from so many different parts. What have you been doing to keep busy lately?
Okay, to keep busy is easy. Baruch Hashem, the Yeshivish gave me a schos since the miraculous and Nissimdik release. The Yeshivish gave me out of prison, and the spontaneous simcha that all Eden enjoyed to see the Yeshivish show how it feels are heard and answered in a wondrous way. So people invite me, and I'm using it to encourage Eden to continue the Emunah and Betachon the Yeshivish. It's Aleph Beis Gimel, Emunah Betachon Beis Gula.
And you're doing that now actively.
And the amazing thing about talking about Betachon Gula is that you can talk to a crowd that has a mix of youngest kids, middle-aged, and oldest guys. I just did a sukkahs. I was in the shul here in Daphne Lakewood, and
you've moved to Lakewood. Yeah. You moved to the Lakewood area. You moved from Muncie to
Jackson.
To Jackson.
It's a little further out there, but a good friend of ours, Abish brother, I get tired. He asked me to come to that Banim. So they came. So I said, "Put." So I came and spoke to them. So amazing. You saw it sitting in a shul. You had maybe 100, 120 people there, but you had children, bochrim, and adults. I spoke to them for an hour about the idea of Emunah Betachon and Teda mitzvahs. Emunah Betachon expressed the Teda mitzvahs. So. And everybody's quiet. Everybody's listening.
Do you find that people don't really understand what that means, Emunah B'tachon, like they don't connect with it? Or fakert, they do, they just don't know what it is they're feeling?
No, I find that be'emes, everybody wants to hear about Emunah B'tachon because it's a little bit deceptive because on one side, we all have Emunah by nature. We have a neshama, we are banim of Avram Avinu, the first Maimon, so we naturally have a Emunah. Naturally we have a B'tachon. So we say, we have it. But I guess in order to get it to use it in our daily lives and to exercise it, then we have to learn and to bring it out in a revealed way. And I try to help them with that.
I've seen, forgive me for being so blunt, you were in Montreal. Yeah. So different meisters wanted you, and there were meisters who weren't sure. They had to ask and they had to check, are you kosher enough? You're Vina Shvi, you're Lubavitcher, and who knows? And 3 minutes after you started talking, suddenly it was pin drop quiet, and everybody was pulling in closer, and they said 20 minutes. I think 45 minutes later, they told me he shouldn't stop. Is that something you experience a lot, that you're able to connect? What is it? Such a gracious speaker? Is that what it is? It's your smile? Your smile is, for sure.
Okay.
But what else? There's other speakers, and I've never seen this with anybody else. This ability to just...
Again, it's something which everybody's interested in. And the reason they say 20 minutes is they can't imagine somebody to speak about it more than 20 minutes, so they're trying to be nice, but they really want to hear more. So when you start... And it's Dvarim Heitzim and Alev. It's not I'm talking just theory. I bring a story. I try to bring it out how this actually is something we can bring Meduchas HaNefesh, Simchas HaChayim, and how the Yeshivish to help. I was able to do that in the most trying circumstance. So people come over to you a lot of times. How did you do it? And the answer is, what's the answer? The answer is that again the foundation that we have it, and then we learn about it. And learn the Makaitis and Teda that talk about it, then we can live.
You're saying Emunah is not just something that you have to really learn. You have to go back to the sources and you have to chazal them over. Yeah. Even though we have it. You said earlier, if you're in Einiklav Avram Avinu, you have it.
You have it in what's called in a general overarching way, but that's not a way that's going to really affect the way you can make a decision. In order for you to make a decision,
to become instinctive.
Yeah. So then you have to...
I knew you over the years, even when you were there, we got to know each other, and I saw you keep on steiging, forgive me for saying that, in this Nakuda, that nothing meant anything. At a certain point, you were going into a zone, so to speak, that you felt that Rebbeinu Shalom was governing everything around you. What did that for you? Was it a sefer?
Simply, it took out Shara B'tachon on what is B'tachon? It's like a Shulchan Aruch on B'tachon.
Had you ever learned Shara B'tachon before prison?
No, I was told to learn it. The Lubavitcher always asked us to learn it. I learned in Tanya, I learned by the Monastery Kurs a lot, but how to bring it down in the level of B'tachon. So
it's a hard sefer. How did you learn it?
No, it's not.
It's not so hard?
It's not hard at all. You have to want to learn it. You have to want to get past the alchemist. There's everybody say Shabbat is the alchemist.
I remember that you told me once when you were in prison that when I leave here, it's going to be with that sefer under my arm.
And that's exactly what happened. What do you remember what happened?
Tell me.
I got the sefer I first got, so I learned it. So it was a little used out, and then I had it in my locker.
It was a blue one,
It was a little blue sefer.
It says your name in the thing. Yeah.
From Phelim, and I had it in my locker. And the day for whatever reason, I took it out of my locker, I put it in my talus bag. And Eli Paley, when I was told to get out of the cell, I just didn't know what was happening, so I just grabbed my talus bag. I wanted to have that next to me. Had I not taken it out of my locker, it would have stayed in the locker. I grabbed the talus bag, so the Eibush attack.
But today was not safer. And it was practice. I took it out of my locker, I don't know why. I put it in my talus bag and I walked out with it.
That's my family. I'm walking out with the sefer, meaning the sefer, if you learn the sefer, I don't think you say it sounds veiled. How do you know? So you learn Shabbos and you find out, without getting into speech, it's a very, very, very nekudadik. It's midah connected midah. When betachon means doing what the Eibishter wants, one of the things, and because you're doing what the Eibishter wants, you can expect the Eibishter to do what you want. Let's say if you want to address it's Perek Gimel, Agdom Adala, this says clearly. So you see, the Eibishter expects us to have a betachon. On the hardest times, I thought to myself a lot of challenges. I mean, of course, it was challenges.
And people have challenges. And you still have challenges even after living in prison.
Of course, yeah.
Rebbeinu Shalom is not just you put in a quarter and press and you get a snack out of a machine. It doesn't go like that.
Of course, every single day you wake up in the morning, you wake up to a physical world. The world is a world that hides the Eibishter. You have to reveal it. So when you learn, instead of just knowing, I remember something, I heard of a 2-minute clip on the app, on the phone. He said something inspiring, but you can't get that inspiration anymore because you're not watching it right now. But if you learn something, you think about it, you realize that you can go back.
Okay, wait 1 second, forgive me. But aren't you also, a lot of your Torah is going on in those 2-minute clips also? That means...
I don't have too many 2-minute clips.
No, but you know what I mean. That means we're living in that world. A lot of your popularity comes from the telegenic, photogenic, what we're doing. There's not a lot of room for amkus because people don't have the head and everybody's jumpy.
But that's why I encourage them.
Do you say shiur and be'ir?
Yes, there's a shiur. I have shiur in Dakav and Torah anytime. I have shiurim. I have more shiurim, but not able to record it. I'm really doing everything most
You say a shiur in Lakewood also every week.
And Baruch Hashem.
Very.
We had a Kabura in Muncie. We had a shiur every week there. I would try to encourage people to take just the first few days. I met with 3 children, and I always betzach. I say I'm always pleased with them. We speak for an hour, and you feel a little bit energized. You see the person went through a hard time, and you heard how he got out of it. But you don't leave with that. Take the sefer, open it up, learn it. Then you can methodically think through how.
People talk to you a lot. I saw when I took you to speeches that people with their child suddenly stop you in the hallways, and they needed to tell you what they're going through.
I have to tell you, this is amazing. But the things that give me inspiration. Yeah, I walked into a shul this Friday night. I was in Borough Park. I go to my mother. And my father is not there, so I go to give my mother a kibbutz avim. So I go there for Shabbos. It's not easy. And so I daven in the Kaprishnitz shul on the same block.
Kaprishnitz?
Yeah.
You go back to Kaprishnitz.
Lawyer did so much for us. So the Kaprishnitz Rebbe from today, his grandfather, did my father a big favor also. He helped him get meat when they were trying to block him off in the 1950s. So as a Korsatev, I go to Kaprishnitz shul, and they help them. So I'm davening, and a sweet young man got up to daven Friday night, and after davening, he walks over to me, he tells me, I got to tell you something. You give me a lot of chizik. I look at him, I don't know him. Where do I know him from? So he's Dafka from Lakewood. I meet him in Kaprishnitz. And he tells me that his father passed away a few days before mine. And it's Nissen.
From this same Kufa Nebach.
Yeah, same Kufa, and he was very zerbrochen. And then there was a Psakel, I don't remember names. He asked me to say a shir in Shar B'tochen. And so I gave a shir, if I remember correctly, it was Chalom Beit Pesach, I think it was, Mamish, and I gave a shir over telephone, over Zoom, whatever, I think it was over telephone, and I gave a shir for the Kili Light, maybe 100 were on the phone, maybe Zoom, and he was on there, and just hearing the words of Torah about B'tochen and the Munah, not, and the idea, and hearing a person who's going through the same thing he has with a B'tochen, I gave him strength, he found it important to come and tell me. I would never know. So this is the word. When we show who we really are, we're Bnei Avraham, Yosef, Yaakov, we have a Munah and the Meibishter. Together, the Munah that Ramban says is the B'tochen, the Eibishter will help you. You're soon going to learn the Pasha. I love to say this word. learn the parasha about Yitzchak and Rivka.
Right.
Right? Vayeta, Yitzchak davened, lechach ishtei. Why? Ki akarahi. The Torah says, why did he daven? Ki akarahi. What you know what akara means? She can't have children, so what's davens to? And Yid has to know that he didn't get into it. It could be a Rivka went to a doctor, and the doctor told her that you can't have children. That meant no difference.
You're the biggest raya in the world.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. I want to ask you two questions, but forgive me again for being. You don't have to answer if you don't like the question.
Okay.
You're Lubavitcher Chassid, a proud Lubavitcher Chassid. You were born a Lubavitcher Chassid, and you're still a Lubavitcher Chassid, and somehow you became sort of an ambassador both ways. That means I think that a lot of people, until your story, didn't realize what Lubavitcher Chassidus is. Because Sai Michael, when you went into prison, you weren't a Rosh Yeshiva, you weren't a Rav, you weren't a Mashpia, you were a ZCE, the butcher who smoked from Iowa. And you went in, and people saw a certain kind of a fire for Yiddishkeit, for Negelvaza, for a Kappel, for Tzitzis, that. And a lot of us, me included, said, I don't know if I would be this strong. There's a Terim, you don't need to wear yarmulke, it's not even a Shulchan Aruch, the same, all the things that we live with. And you said no. So I think people understood a little bit what Chassidus means, what Lechatchila Rebbe means, what it means to have that Zach. And Fakat, I think you got to see a lot of the Sheinkite of the rest of Klal Yisrael who were there for you. Not only Pinchas Halevi, you did, who spearheaded it, but everybody from all kinds of communities. Who I remember the event in Montreal. It was full of Hasidim, and So everybody, isn't it a little sad to you that there's like we're not together more? We don't do more stuff together.
For sure, but because first we see the power of Achdus. We all have one Eibishter, one Torah. Every Chassidus, or every minhag that people have, whether Chassidim, not Chassidim, we all have the Hashem. Each one has to follow the way of his father. My father brought me, I grew up in Borough Park, so my father gets a lot of credit for this. Every single Yid has to feed his tate, how his father to gefiert. Just because you are living the life of your Chassidus or your Litvish or whatever it is, fakir, and you bring out the beauty of your shape, like even 12 Shrotim. You bring out your shavet, and each one.
But Lamais, at the end of the day, a lot of Lubavitch Chassidim they don't really know much about who the Rosh Yeshiva in Lakewood is or South Fallsburg is, and a lot of us don't know really who are even the Nesiim in Chabad. It's for whatever reason it became that way. It was a little more separate. Is that something that you're aware of? Do you work on it?
To say it's very simple. After you see a tremendous achdus. That Eden got together daven for me. They knew that I was dafka from their group, but they all felt that they really are from our group because we're all Eden, right? So when we put away all our differences and we help each other, the Eibishter puts away all the Hagbolas in the world and helps us also. And we saw the tremendousness. All Eden came out spontaneous. So we saw the Keich of Achdus and Havas Yisrael and anything that gets in between.
Do you remember that night, that Chanukah night? Do you remember the thing, or you were in?
No, I remember it very, very.
You remember the details?
I was very surprised, but I loved every moment of it.
Did you know how many people felt like Mishpacha with you? Like, did you realize?
I looked on Friday night in my parents' home. This was Wednesday night.
Right.
Friday night, I went to my parents for Shabbos.
Right, about that.
They say over 4,000, maybe 4,100, passed through the house.
Second Shabbos.
Second Shabbos and say Sholom. And I stood there. Believe me, I want to sit with my father, and I want to verbring, but I didn't come naar Reinet, but a chibbe. They came in a bracha from, and if the Eibishter gave a koyach to give a bracha at that moment, that's such a mess. So you didn't geholfen werden. It was amazing. And I remember the police, the guys, the guards were trying to shut the door, and my mother's angesund, my father. He says, we never shut the door for anybody in the house.
Rubashkin's never shut the door. We're not going to start now.
So they said 4,000 Yidden. So the Achdus is powerful, and maybe this is the message also, that fakert, don't focus on what makes us different, focus on what we are.
We could be doing better.
We should be.
We try in the magazine. You were an opportunity, like I said.
Yeah.
A guy told me, until Sholom Mordechai Rubashkin, the only thing I knew about Lubavitch was that Avram Fried sings well. Then came Sholom Mordechai Rubashkin, I realized the Yiddishkeit.
Right. And I go around, I see beautiful other chogim that I never saw also. Sure. The learning, see the Midas-Tevah.
Remember the Maisa?
Yeah.
You know this thing? Did I tell this to you ever? I once went to visit you in prison, and you were telling me with the spy list that Yerucham Olshan had come to Lakewood Rosh Yeshiva, and he asked for a picture, and he was uncomfortable. And this is what you told me. You said you saw he was uncomfortable, then he said sure. So you said, what's the uncomfortable? And you chapped, they made him take off his hat when he came in. Shiva, to be photographed without a hat, he wasn't comfortable. But Avada, he said, yeah. Ahavas Yisrael, that he could be nice about with you, he could make a little freilich you wanted for the kids, a picture with him. He said, yes. So you told me the story with the Hispilus. So I got the picture. So I wanted to put it in the magazine and write the story of the Ahavas Yisrael of Rabbi Yerucham. I thought it was nice. I called Rabbi Yerucham and asked for permission. Could I write this? But if he didn't want to be photographed with that, he certainly doesn't want it in Mishpacha magazine, which goes all over the world into Jewish homes. So he says, why? What's your having me I would let? Because it'll be mechazik into daven for Sholom Mordechai. It'll be mask of them. Yeah, Taka, you could do it. The thing. A month later, you got out. This was Cheshvan. Kislev, you were out already.
Wow.
Maybe from the Yanamaisa. For sure from Yanamaisa. Other things too. But going back to that. So you got to see the Ahavas Yisrael of everybody.
Unbelievable.
So we have to keep that alive.
He's a goin. I did in learning, but he's also going in Hassidic. Unbelievable.
I want to talk a little bit about your father. You mentioned your father. That's right. Keine gedacht. So many people were nifter in this last kufa, in the last 8 months. Each one of them was a book. Each one of them was a sefer, and it was so many that they didn't always. Your father was nifter before Pesach.
Yeah, test Nissen.
Father was a zach from a doyer. You must be full of haidah that he got to see at least these years. His simcha at the Tzeddah.
I came out. Indescribable. I wanted him to see the total victory because they robbed him and they took away things from him against the law and everything. But he was a munah, was steadfast, was beyond.
Father was a chiddush.
He was. They went to yeshiva chiddush. But the munah was without. Imagine a person working 50 some years or something, and it wasn't easy money for him. Everything was
hard worker.
Yeah, he worked.
But he was
No, I remember coming home and walking into the butcher store. I tried to visit him.
The butcher store was never a big money maker because it was a chesed enterprise.
It made
coming,
money.
eating.
But he used it well. He did never. I told him, when I started working by him, he tells me, I'm going to tell you something. I thought I'm going to have some good Indian business, up to you said. He tells me, Sholom Mordechai, Friday afternoon, Friday morning, whatever, comes in a woman and she doesn't have money to pay you for the meat. Just the reason, don't stand in between her, just make sure she has the meat. I was saying the guilt, write it down. It's design. In other words, he saw, he told me, yes, you remember what you're dealing with. You're dealing with food. Don't let ever a dollar to hold back. So somebody give. I remember the Bnei Yeshiva coming into the store. I was standing there, let's say Thursday night, Wednesday night, and it's for Philadelphia. Yeshiva that I want to think about right now, but all the yeshivas that walk in, my father, big smile, they open up his big bags and start taking meat and filling it up for them. I say, it was unbelievable, mamash unbelievable. So he got taken away in an amazingly. I never understand this. He started coughing or whatever, and they took him to the hospital. And we know today what the hospitals were all about. I try not to focus on the cause, and then on Tesnis, he passed away. The amazing thing with him was, if I can say that, if I don't know how much time I have, I want to share you a quick story. He had told my cousin, Sholom Mordechai, had told him that a certain spot that he wanted to be in the Chelke, I guess his father actually is 5 stones away from there.
He's an old mount if you're on cruise, but the Rebbe is.
And there's no more space there. It hasn't been, because they keep on expanding to different areas where there's place to put people, and the Sheikh should come first with Chis HaMesim. So, you can't invest too much in real estate over there because it's not a long-term investment for Shteis Techalen, yeah? So, he had noticed a spot. There wasn't really space there, but he's an angle over there. He tells my cousin he wants that spot. So I called him Thursday night. None of my brothers wanted to deal with it. He told me I should take a deal with it. So what I do here? So I called up my cousin. I still asked him. I said, Sholom, what do I do?
Sholom Duchman.
He says to me, as a matter of fact, your father actually told me where he wants to be. I was shocked. And where? He told me, he described it hasn't been a burial there the last 29, 30 years. It's full. It's one of these stories from the Alter Haim that suddenly becomes space. So the kid said, to make a long, so I was on the telephone. He said, if you have not a clear direction from where it should be, hostel. The whole night we're calling, and I wait till the morning till the boss comes in. Hashgacha Pratis.
And your father wasn't buried yet.
No,
You're waiting.
That's not happened at night. I was very big and I want to tell you something. One of the things that got me through prison is Baal Shem Tov says everything you see in here, you have to know it's from the Eibishter. It's a lesson in life. I took a big chizuk from the moment of very, very big, deep pain. There was no space there. They called every single person patiently and tried here, this guy, that guy.
But so what made you think the actions are chayin? Because you
my
knew.
father said he wanted this.
Your father said he wanted it. You're going to
I
keep.
kept on asking, betting they tried. Anyways, they found.
Who's in charge of the?
There's a Chefik Kadisha.
And they said also there's no room.
Yeah, they said I'd love to put it, but on top it looks like there's maybe a little space, but there's no space for it.
There's no space. But your father had said that he wants to be there.
Yeah. So the kid said. So I remember being at the front of the house. They came, and I was on the phone with Sholom, and he says, maybe we should put him in a different space, and then at night I move him over if there is space. I said, come on. And I again took my Wunder Betochen. From one side, what can I do? Second time, the Eibishter said, "Weiß nach weg." Half an hour later, I get a call from the Chevra Kadisha. They tell me that Sholom had gotten a hold of the owner of the place. He had punked that he's never there.
The owner of the whole Montefiore?
Yeah. And he had agreed. Initially, he said it's impossible. He knows the bottom map, the top map, the bottom map is stuck in space. The Paley sent 2 workers. They opened. They managed to get to figure out what's happening. They started digging, and they found the space.
Unused.
The Mitzvah became a space. So this space, you can say 2 ways. The space was waiting for him 29 years. Or I would say he makes space for everybody a whole life.
They make space for him.
Too. I remember standing over there. The burial was.
Why did your father want to be there? Does he have family members there?
I don't know. Yeah, no, he's next to somebody he knew from Neville, from the older home.
It's close to the Rebbe?
5 stones. It's close to the way he wanted to put him to the Rebbe, but that could be part of it. I don't know.
You don't know why he wanted to be there.
Once I had
but he ended up there, and you, actions, and your siblings were all on board?
Watching it, and I told myself, look at this. Watch in, and this is again a Shabbat B'tochen, you see this. What is your B'tochen when you see in the crisis you're going through? I went through a terrible crisis. And I knew people were davening for me, working for me. But one of the things is strengthening B'tochen, you know that in the crisis you can see David is with you. He's been good for you before. And in Baruch Hashem, my family is healthy. Baruch Hashem, they even are helping, davening. The kids are going through school. And Baruch Hashem healthy and without the need for psychiatrists and whatever. Baruch Hashem, I'm gesund. And so I took all those things as a proof that Yeshivish helped me out of here too. Watching this
seeing the good,
seeing that Yeshivish is with you. How come the bad things you see, good things zeggen the Yeshivish does good zeggen. This you don't see. That's supposed to strengthen your betochen. So in this tzar, I see mit what Yeshivish makes it where my father can get what he wanted. We got what he wanted in a time where it was impossible and things shifted. You'll say lock. He was there. It's not luck. It's the Eibishter watching it and telling you, I'm with you. When you know the Eibishter is with you, that's the key. When you go through an Nesayin, when you realize there's a difference between an Nesayin and an Einish. Most people get nervous because they go hard time. They think it's an Einish. It's not. It's the Eibishter. The Eibishter wants to see how you're going to act. We're going through now a terrible Nesayin with this COVID meister. It's not, the Eibishter wants.
Did you? Has your business been much busier than ever? Because people because of COVID, people need help?
Huh?
No, I'm asking you. You're basically a doctor of Emunah. That's what you do. You speak Emunah all day and all night to people. Has there been a much bigger need of people in crisis in Emunah or fakert?
No, people are in crisis, very much so. I can talk to you. I'll answer any phone if it's a yachid, if it's a rabbin, if it's a minyan, if it's 1,000 people, 100 people. It doesn't make a difference. And that's not even the area. And in the summertime, I went to a few camps. I spoke. People are going through a very hard time. And again, where do they find the simcha? Dafka from the emunah, it's from the Eibishter. First, it's from the Eibishter. And then the Eibishter wants you to be beteich on him. He'll get you out of the problem. And when you speak to them clear, as a Werther was an emes la mite, people come.
Speak truth. I have a question for you. We know that. Forgive me for saying this. You struggled a lot, like we mentioned earlier, in prison. You worked on a lot than you had to. One would think that if in prison it's easy to daven and not have to make Shabbos stick and to be dushmir and it's for sure easier when you get out because you're comfortable and you're free. I think that probably it's a little fakert. You have to work much harder in a way, no?
Yeah, first of all, in a certain way, it's amazing. And people will go through the scenes, have that. It's a pasuk in Tilm, came back Kedesh Chazisicha. Patai says, halavai back Kedesh Chazisicha.
Kain B'Kaidish, just like in Chayil, I see you in difficult times in Kaidish when wow. When I'm surrounded by Kedusha,
I
should still be able to see you.
Kedusha, see you the way I saw you there. When a person's in pain, he only knows to focus on the Eibush.
Forgive me for saying this. You didn't look at a TV screen for 7 years.
Forgive me, I'm very proud. It's proud to say
Beautiful. Okay, maybe by Litvish people we probably more in the yeshivas. Don't say. Right, you didn't look at a television screen for 7 years. In a way, it's probably harder now, even though you think, because people around, look here, I think it's...
Handheld computers. I want to tell you, one of the biggest nisim David gave me the seichel. I got to saw this in the Chavis Lavovus, that a person has to be magdalus his eyes and his ears to David. But again, what's a munah b'tachon? It's really just go approach it. They think it's a complicated conversation. It's not complicated at all. Munah b'tachon means seeing the world with Yiddish eyes. Look at the world with Yiddish eyes. Every time you open up a television, today's not television, today's screens, you open up, you hook onto a news reporter, you are getting fed a look of a goy. And I mean goy mean dafka v'zorenik, even teva. They're trying to explain how things work in the world of teva, and the writer will give you a poll, exactly what's going to happen. A Yid is expected to see the world of teva, but see the Eibush in teva. That's a munah. What's a munah pashut? I see a world. Avram Avinu becomes 3 years old. He sees a world, and he finds the Eibush in the world. He goes beyond. So if I'm going to work, I was told in Teda, B'tachon itself brings the bracha. I was in the tzara, I had to go home. There were doors blocking me. Right? The fences blocking me.
A lot of doors.
A lot of doors. You saw the doors, yeah?
A lot of doors, a lot of people.
How do I get out of there? So the legal system is not a system. I was watching it. So you're not even. So I was told trach gut wird sein. What's trach gut mean? Have betochen the Eibishter. I knew I had to strengthen my betochen. Betochen comes from where? From Munah. The Ramban says, yeah. So it became critically important to me not to watch the screens, because if I watch the screen,
it's going to take away.
Take away the ability to see.
Do you remember what you told me about the phone? Could you say it over?
Okay, I'll say it over.
I was
sitting in the room. I remember the Salman.
You spoke in Montreal last year. You spoke for like 7.5 hours straight.
Yeah.
And then in the 7.5 hours when I was done, you said this, and it blew my mind.
You never know
Talk.
what it is. So I was sitting this is part of it. This mom is part of it. Till today, I don't have a computer phone. Like it's not a phone. I call it a handheld computer. I have a regular phone. Why? For this very reason. I find gute Sachen, but I don't want to hurt my emunah by watching.
Right, even though in Lubavitch, actually, they're very forward about technology.
Yes,
everything is meant to be used for Kedusha.
Use it to send it out, not coming in. This is a different situation. But getting back to your question, I was sitting in the cell. I was definitely learning a blood gemara. I had the whole
What was that?
I can't tell you that. I was a member.
You were learning Shabbos a lot, I remember, right?
That was in the visiting room.
Yeah.
I was actually in Dafayimi in that period of time, so I can't tell you what exactly. I was sitting in a blood gemara, and I was I hear outside the door. The phone was outside the door, and I hear a guy speaking in a coarse manner. I never believed a human being can speak like that. And the initial reaction was, jump up, there's a little window in the door, go see if behemoth looks like that. But one of the things a Yid has to do with halal, especially in prison, don't do something before you think, why do you want it? Because prison halal is a very dangerous place, because sometimes you do things that seems simple, but it can turn into a fight. So before I stopped myself, what am I going to see a guy's face? I right away, rationalized it in my mind. I want to see you speaking like that, to stay away from him. And that's exactly when I figured out that it's Yetzirah talking. See,
I want to see who's this manuvel, so I should avoid. It's a Heilige Cheshbon. I'm so good. Okay, and then you said no.
1 second. That can't be the real reason, because I avoid everybody. Really, I mean, if a guy said hello to me, it was hello. I didn't make any friends over there. I was doing my thing, and that's Dafka again. Dafka, why they respect me most is because of that. So, people think that thoughts are part of. And when you learn Torah, you find out no, there's Yitzhara. You have thoughts coming from the Kedusha, and thoughts coming in from the Yitzhara doesn't come always with a tumah sign. It comes in with a rational sign. So why is this comes to Yitzhara? Because it's a lie. So why I thought to myself, why does Yitzhara pushing me so badly? What's so important for me to see this guy's ugly face? And I chapsich. And it hit me, because when I see this guy, I'll have the opposite reaction. Every time I see his face, I'll remember what he said. And I desperately wanted to forget what he said. I did, because I was trying to keep in a level of Gusha.
It was amazing epiphany to me in understanding.
The Eibush doesn't help you. This the Eibush helped me. What's going
Do
on.
you still have things now that you remember, things that you heard in prison that had an effect on you?
No, so what it is, from then I made a shitta, I don't look. I heard a lot of crazy things. I never turned around to find who said it. I kept my eyes to myself. I don't remember one Meshugana thing they said. I heard a lot of Meshugana things, but it's easy to forget what you hear. It's hard to forget what you see. So I didn't connect my sight with
After you left, there was an interview or a conversation with some of the inmates who said nice things about you, Dafka, that you were popular. They liked you over there.
They like, but I wasn't.
But you weren't trying to do PR and winning friends.
Another way around. A goy can recognize a yid in its true sense.
Did you ever hear that anybody come out since then? Did you hear from them? Did they make contact?
A lot of people came out. A good friend of mine, Mordechai Samad, came out.
I remember you told me two things. One is that when you were there, that you'd sing Zmiras together on Shabbos with him, and you told me when you left that it sips you still, that he's still there. So you've been in touch with him since he got out?
Yeah.
Have you seen him?
No, I can't be in touch with him. But I could be in touch with him. I know the system works. He still has certain. He got out from the first Step Act.
Have you seen him?
Again, President Donald Trump signed this First Step Act a year after I got released. The mamash to the day they started the Gimel Tavis, the year after I was released, came the good news that McDonald, whatever his name is the Senate Majority Leader. He is going to put it to the floor, and before the year was so that.
To mention Moshe Margaretin, who's the man who.
My Aiden Yaakov
Weiss.
He's the one that got me to.
Your daughter,
my
the
daughter,
superstar.
God bless her. So
every time when you were in, maybe 3-4 years, I would call different Sachen. Every time I'd say, "Hi, it's Shirley Besser. What's doing? Waiting for Nisim."
Yeah.
Always, that was her.
So they're doing your stadless and they're knowing.
Waiting for the nes.
Waiting for the nes.
Waiting for the
I
nes.
got to tell you also. I mean, right now they came out. I'm working for Aleph.
Tell me a little bit about what you do.
Aleph is an organization that.
Ritzi Boyarsky. Ritzi Boyarsky has no ego. He doesn't when we talk about him in the media.
He gets nervous when I say his name.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah, but he got tens and tens of people. He was on the phone.
And how he works on 10 steps, like he sees ahead. He's working on things.
Yeah, in a very optimistic way. And so whenever I can, I try to. I give people a chizuk, but they were a tremendous help for me in many times in helping.
So you're working for them?
Yeah, I'm helping them to raise trying to help them raise money also, but mainly when I talk, the mechazik people they need to chizuk wherever I can.
Are there people now who actively have maybe husbands in prison or family members in prison who call you for chizuk with this?
Yeah.
Are you able to visit prisons or no?
Right, still not yet.
But you would go back if you were allowed to? Wouldn't be hard, traumatic, difficult?
I never got, so that's a good question. I don't think, people ask me many times, how do you talk about something you want to forget? I said, I don't know if I was ever really there.
Rubashkin, you're not here. Remember the story?
Yeah. It's an amazing story, right? So I'm trying to work on myself. How do you do that?
Rubashkin, you're not here.
That's the guy. He was ready to fight with me.
You were never there.
He was angry. Why? Because I asked him for something in front of his guys. It made him look bad.
Just to chaz it over. Right?
Yeah, I asked him for
you breached the etiquette. You asked him, you were in the middle of writing an email, so you asked him to get you water because they were going to shut down the computer. Ice. And it was a gang leader, and it was disrespectful. You dissed him.
I didn't know I dissed him.
So the next day when he was telling you, he goes, Rubashkin, you're not even here. And you told me,
that
was the moment, I'm not here.
How? How you not here? A person has to know if he lives with his neshama. Emunah b'tachon expresses itself in Teda mitzvahs. So when you learn Teda mitzvahs, you're expressing your neshama. When your neshama is expressed, you're not in the tzara anymore. Because who are you really? You're neshama. And that raises up all your goof, so to speak, all your physical, it gets raised up so you don't feel the pain. Of course you're in prison, but you don't feel the pain. I heard people describe me as being always happy. It's really missing you. You think I was happy being there?
No.
Definitely not. But the happiness was knowing that Advish is with me, because one of the hardest things going through any Nisayan is the feeling of
I can't even imagine what 1 hour was like. I was once visiting you, and your kids were there, and you leaned over to give him a kiss, and the guard, he's sitting over there like a Grace lifeguard chair, and he's like, Rubashkin, no!
Yeah.
You couldn't kiss your kid on the forehead.
And you imagine the pain for me and for the kid. So the word is, okay, so you can focus on the pain, or you can focus that the Eibishter wants me, these things shouldn't affect me, and we can continue being the same year you were before, right? When you know you're doing what the Eibishter wants, right? and you know that the Eibishter is going to help you, you're able to could maintain a simcha d'chayim. So how do you internalize it? Getting back to the beginning of the conversation, by learning. Not because learning is so important.
Learning,
Yeah.
Are there any contemporary Svarim that you would recommend? Like from Heintiger people, Svarim that come out now?
I like going straight to the source.
You go stay with the Chavis Halvavas.
I go straight in. I learned also Avish, I learned also Tanya. The God of Emunah in I know. I can tell you a story. Maybe you want to use this.
Let's do it. We got to wrap it up. Let's end with a story.
This is an interesting story because when I go to speak in schools, this is an important. So there's the Rabbi Schlesinke in Muncie. And in the first year, there's a group of boys came from Muncie, from Lakewood to see me in Muncie. Interessant. Now I'm in Jackson. So afterwards, the guy had a connection with Rabbi Schlesinger. He brought me in, and we're talking. He goes,
sure.
Yeah. And he gave me time. I always felt very humble sitting in front of such great people, and he wants to know what I'm doing. I'm telling what I'm doing. And then I got a chance to ask him a question. I say to him, I find it interesting. I go to schools, I tell my story, and that's about learning the Chavis Halvavas, right? It's a safe, everybody learns. And I expect, and I asked them, you guys learn Chavis Halvavas here too? Or I asked later, I asked them in Nahal or the
principal, yeah.
And he says, no, we have a shmooze, or very few times I will get an interview.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, why don't they sit down with these bachrim and teach them Shabbos, right? And so I asked him the question. Or talked to him. So he says to me, it was more than this, but he says, I actually will ask him what I'm doing now. Baruch I'm writing a book of my whole story, and Baruch I'm also writing. I actually wrote up as a whole curriculum, so to speak, for kids on the Modern Orthodox and how to teach it and the mitzvahs. A little. In a way that not the philosophy should be done, but based on Midrash and presented to a child that we started off that they can understand. So he says to me, a Rebbe can prepare a blood Gemara, Rashi Tesis, and give it over. And he feels comfortable. In the Modern Orthodox is an area he's afraid to get hit with a question. He don't know what to answer. He avoids it. Now, wonderful. So what happens to the child? The child then it goes out into the world. And I spoke just recently to a guy, a yeshiva, went to the yeshiva, went into the workplace, and Fapachketzach, the one who introduced me to him, he said, I can't even believe he even went there.
Right.
It wasn't, what happens, you go into the world and you have not been given the ability to understand who you are.
The tools and the kalim to understand.
Yeah.
And
so then you suddenly get as a.
So you're closing with an endorsement. You're closing with an endorsement to the people. Read Shar B'Tachan. Learn Shar B'Tachan. Go to the sources. What if somebody wants to reach you? How could they reach you?
I have an email address.
What is it?
SholomRubashkin@gmail.com.
SholomRubashkin@gmail.com.
It's easy, yeah.
It's geweldig.
SHOLOM.
We all know we know how to spell your name. We know. Sholom Mordechai Rubashkin. SholomRubashkin@gmail.com. That's how they can get you.
Yes.
A Freilichen Chanukah, a Freilichen Talmud. You should be good bench. It's so great to see you. I will never not get excited from seeing your smile.
Okay,
thank you for coming in.
Nice to see you too.